This morning, I want to do a quick review of yesterday's assignment. Yesterday's mainly was putting the equations in y equals and graphing them and see if they crossed, and then use second trace intersect to find the x and y coordinates of where they cross. If the lines are parallel, they'll never cross, so that's a no solution. And if you only get one line on your calculator or on your graph, then that means one line is set over the other one. They're the same line, so that's all real numbers. I wanted to look at question 8 on the back just to reiterate the fraction feature in your calculator and make sure that you're using that so that you end up with the correct graphs. So the idea is you got to get y by itself. So I'm going to move that 4x. So I have 14 minus 4x because we went across the equal sign. And that would take care of that. And then I need to divide that 7 out of there. So all of this gets divided by 7. And I would leave it just like that because we're going to put it in the calculator just like that. The second one, we're going to subtract the 8 over here. So we'd have 5x minus 8. And then I got to divide that 8 away from that y. So all of this gets divided by 8. And that's calculator ready. So you can go to your calculator and y equals alpha, y equals gives you the options for these fractions. And we want this first option, numerator, denominator. So you can either press the enter key or 1, doesn't matter. And you just put the first part in there. So 14 minus 4x. Use your down arrow to get to the bottom. That's a 7. And in the second equation, we have alpha, y equals. Press enter this time to show you the same thing. 5x minus 8 in the numerator and 8 in the denominator. And then we can graph this thing. And this graph just sketch it as best you can over here on this side. And then when you go to table, your table is second graph. Table's up here, second feature of graph. And you can go to the table, second graph, and pick any 5 points. It does not matter. I just want you to be able to go to the table because throughout the year we're going to reference the table. I want you to be able to look at and compare these values. Also, if you get one line on your calculator, if you look at the y1 and the y2, if they're exactly the same numbers, then you know for sure it's the same line and it's an all real numbers deal. But back to the graph, we want to find where those two lines cross. So second trace, option 5. And I'm going to move my cursor up there and just press enter 3 times. You don't have to guess. You don't have to do a second curve. So I'd call that like 2.5 and 0.6 maybe. So over here you have 2.5. A lot of room there. And then 0.6 is sufficient. With some crazy decimals. And you can just write them as an XY coordinate. And that would be, that would solve those. So that's what you're doing on the back of these. I will tell you that there is one no solution on 7, 8, 9, and 10, and there is one all real numbers on 7, 8, 9, and 10. Let me see if I can get to today's notes, if it'll still let me. Yes, good. So on today's notes, the first part is solved by graphing review. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is how to use a matrix to solve. So when the equations are in standard form, meaning the x, the y, and the number are all together, or the x and y on one side and the number on the other side, they're in standard form. And you can use matrices to solve that. And here's the steps, but it may look kind of weird, and I'll try to walk you through them. So the matrix or the equations set up in rows. So the rows go across, left to right, horizontal, by columns. The columns are like columns that hold up a building, so they're vertical. So this has 2 rows by 1, 2, 3 columns. And usually if you have 2 letters, it's a 2 by 3. Notice it's 2 by 3 up here. That's the dimensions of the matrix. If you have 3 letters, it's a 3 by 4. If you have 4 letters, it's a 4 by 5. So we're going to go to second x to the negative 1. So second x to the negative 1 is under the math key. And if you notice, that says matrix. And we want to go to edit, just like stat edit. This is matrix edit. So I'm on back arrow to edit and press enter. And then I have a 2 by 3 matrix. And then when you press enter, you should get these zeros should match up the number of terms you have. So if there's not a number shown in front of the x, it's a 1. So type in 1, enter, and then it jumps to the next one. That y is also a 1, and then it equals negative 1. And on the second row, I have a 4, a negative 2, keep the sign with it, and a negative 16. Once you've entered the data in there, so we've done the matrix. We know second x negative 1, went to edit. It's a 2 by 3 matrix. We type the coefficients. That's where we are right now, typing coefficients. Then you go second mode, which is quit. Mode is up here by second, so second mode. And it gives you a blank screen, which don't panic. It's just letting the calculator know that you're finished putting data in. Then you go back to matrix. And this time you're going to go over to math. And you're looking for RREF, reduced row echelon form. That's down, I forgot where it is, down here a ways. There it is. It's option B. And then you press enter. And then we want to go back to second matrix because it wants to know what matrix do you want to perform that reduced row echelon on. And we're going to do the first one because that's where we put our data. So you just press enter. And you can close the parenthesis, you don't have to, it doesn't matter. And enter one more time. And so you get an answer matrix. The last column are your solutions. So negative 3, 2, satisfy or make both of these equations true. So negative 3 is the x, and 2 is the y. And now you've solved a system of equations using matrices. And you can back up and look over this as you need to kind of get that figured out. But once you get that process, it goes really fast. So the notes are up there. You can kind of look at them. I just want to reiterate that when you get an answer matrix, notice this answer matrix has a diagonal of 1s. If you have a diagonal of 1s, then it's just like a graph that intersects at one place. So this would have one solution and intersects one time. So if you're graphing and the lines cross, it's one solution. If you got a diagonal of 1s, then that last column is your one solution. If you have a single line, then that means all solutions work because all the x's and y, or all the y's are the same, right? And it intersects, well, I'm just going to put the all real number symbol everywhere. And notice you got a row of zeros across the bottom in matrices. So if you have a row of zeros in matrices, you've got an all real numbers scenario. And finally, if you have parallel lines, there is no solution. And intersects none or doesn't. And they're parallel lines. Well, a matrix equivalent to no solution is with a 0, 0, 1 on the bottom. So make sure you hang on to these notes and keep track of them. They will serve you well because you have to compare. Most of you are okay with the graph. If it crosses once, it's one solution. If it's one line, it's all solutions. If it's parallel, it's none. And sometimes the matrices get confusing. So if you got a diagonal of 1s, it's one solution. If you have all zeros, it's all real numbers, all in all. And if you have 0, 0, 1, then it's a no solution. So hopefully that'll help you with today's assignment and give you a little bit of review on yesterday's assignment. And I'll send out today's assignment shortly.